Welcome, welcome, welcome to Never Met a Stranger Whispers of Wisdom's podcast. Today I have with me Miss Shavante Grant. Hello, Miss Shavante.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. How was your holiday?
It was great. A lot of time with family,
Yeah.
friends, and different things. So I got to relax quite a bit.
Nice. So our story is interesting. Well, my podcast is called Never Met a Stranger Whispers of Wisdom. And I drive Lyft part time. And she was one of my Lyft passengers.
Yes.
So we met. Of course, she was my passenger, and we were just talking. And come to find out, we were talking, and she knew my daughter. She went to Mesmer. And so we were just talking, and her story was very interesting to me. So I invited her to come on my podcast. She's actually an architect, and she works at what's the name of the firm?
It's Ramlo Stein. I'm an architectural designer.
Yes, yeah. So she's an architect and designer. So how did you get into that?
So I started off. I'm not gonna take you guys through the whole story, but I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I really wanted to help people.
Yeah.
But I've always been very creative in high school. I did took a lot of art classes, music classes, all those different things. I come from a family full of creative people. My uncle's a carpenter, my grandpa's a musician. So very creative family. But along the way of me trying to rediscover myself, both in undergrad as well as outside of that, I realized that I wanted something that was creative. I wanted to be able to use my hand, and I wanted to be able to give back to my community.
Nice. Nice, nice. So I want to go back. Okay, so let's talk about you starting and thinking about it when you were in high school. Let's go back to high school. So you met so she knew my daughter. She met my daughter in Mesmer.
Yes.
So when you were in Mesmer, did you think about architecture? Like what? How did it? I mean, I know you had your uncle and everyone that was creative.
Yeah.
But did you think about it then, like when you were in high school?
No, I didn't. I didn't think about architecture. So I did like art. I considered a few creative paths, but growing up, you don't hear a lot of good things about taking a creative path. They like it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really tough, and so I kind of decided to choose a different route and use my art as more of a hobby. So it wasn't anything I thought about. I didn't even know anything about architecture actually in high school. And so I didn't learn that until I got into college.
Okay. Okay. So what college did you go to?
I went to UW.
Nice.
I didn't leave the state.
Okay. So how long ago did you graduate? Tell me that experience that you had when you were there. Like how was it, being there and taking up,
So I graduated high school in 2013.
Okay.
I didn't graduate with my undergraduate degree until 2018, so it took me a little longer. The path was not very straightforward. I will say that. Like I said, I started off thinking I wanted to be a doctor. So I was majoring in biomedical sciences, minoring in art.
Got
And it flipped.
it flipped. And it because it was your passion, right?
Yeah.
So nice. So let everybody know, like, when you're trying to do your passion, like you said, it flipped.
Mhm.
It kind of just took over.
Yeah.
It took over. So usually when you have a passion for something, it's an urge that's inside of you that makes you want to do it. And so that's part of your purpose, part of your passion. So when you're doing something that's part of your passion, you end up doing well at it and excelling at it.
That's
You know?
true. And I think it's always tell people figuring out how you can use your skills and talents because it might not be as straightforward as you think where it's like, oh, I know how to draw really well. Maybe you're not meant to be a painter per
Right.
se,
Right.
but what other things can you do where you can apply those skills to? And so I think that's kind of maybe you're good at music, right? And you're like, well, I don't really want to be a musician. Maybe you want to be an engineer,
Right.
you know? So it's figuring out how you can take those skills and translate them over to other paths. And for me, one thing I will say is that my art has always been consistent. So on the side of doing, my architecture stuff, I actually work on murals still. So I started off getting into murals in high school, and I do that on the side. I help Tia Richardson. She's a local artist here,
Okay.
and so I help her out a lot with her murals and things when I have the time to. With my current career path, I don't always have the availability that I used to.
Right.
But it's always there, you know. So I think pay attention to those things that you would do for free,
that you would do.
because I do that for free.
So where do you do your murals? Where? So,
So like, well, she will pay me from time to time, but when I started off helping her, a lot of times I was just volunteering because I enjoyed it, and even now, sometimes I'll just, you know, need some extra help. For me, it's like a form of therapy for me too.
absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
it's not like I'm just, there is something I get from it.
Yeah.
If that-
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm a hairdresser too. You know, that's what I've been doing for over 30 years. So it's a passion of mine. And then I ended up branching off into teaching, and I was teaching at Paul Mitchell Beauty College. So I know what you're saying. When you have that niche, you know, and you have that talent, or that, you know, something that you just really like to do, it ends up branching off into all
Yeah.
different areas. So is there any way that people can contact you too? Like if they want, do you want to like do murals for people, or would you be willing to do it? Because people may want to know once they see the podcast, they may want to know, and, you know, they may have a building, or do you do it like commercial buildings? Do you do it like,
So-
how do you do?
So with the murals, I've really been more so assisting her with what she does.
Okay.
Even though I mean, my degree is in community arts. My
Yeah.
degree is actually, I focus on murals. But I didn't really just kind of do my own thing. I kind of used to help her with her stuff, or
Okay.
anyone else who really needed help. That's not something I've really kind of taken off on my own. My architecture and things that I'm kind of, I guess I would say, taking more of me to kind of go off, do my own thing at some point.
Right.
But I mean, I do have an IG if you're interested in ever following me or anything like that. So you just look me up, Shavante Grant. I'm not hard to find.
Okay.
Or The Life of Shay Marie, as you may see on Instagram.
Okay. We'll get back to that again at the end. I'll let you give a shout out and spell it and everything like that. So, about what I want to know too is how many minorities, like female minorities, are in architecture. You don't see too many of them.
You don't see a lot. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know the exact number.
Right.
It's really low. I know at least in Wisconsin, in terms of those being licensed, there is only a handful of us. Like, there's only one person I know for sure that was licensed here specifically. We do have a couple that are licensed, but they didn't get their license in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And so I think that's the big thing. Is like, hey, how many people actually got their licensing here in Wisconsin? How many of there, that are licensed here in Milwaukee or Wisconsin? I know there's two for sure.
Okay.
That are licensed here, and I know for sure only one of them got their license.
Oh.
And then, there's a handful of designers here too. And so, definitely look it up more. But I would hope to be that second or third person. I have another friend working towards her license.
Okay. Okay. So, what would you say to people if people are interested in getting into it? What advice would you give them?
I would say specifically for architecture.
For architecture, yeah.
Do your research. Be curious. Architects or people who study architecture who are designers. They call them master of all trades, and I understand why now, because you have to know how to do a little bit of everything. So, I know some people who you have to build your hands, building things. The practice has moved more into more of a technical side.
Okay.
And so you're not really doing a lot of those you're not hand drafting all that stuff anymore.
Okay.
But, you still take courses where you have to know how to do that kind of stuff.
Okay. So you were just. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I mean, you got a question?
I was gonna say. So you were intrigued with buildings. Like, how did it actually? Like, what made you
Get into
get
it.
into? You're right, because I mean, we all look at buildings and it's just like, oh my goodness. I'm just like, how the heck did they build these buildings? But did you just look at buildings? You just intrigued. Like, what made you really just?
So mine wasn't. It was okay. It wasn't the traditional route of like, oh yeah, I've always enjoyed buildings all my life. I've always been exposed to things.
Yeah.
Mine's actually still stems from my background in art, and so with my degree in community arts, I went, like I said, I was working helping other artists here in Milwaukee who do murals, and so as a painter, I got to go, to the south side, north side, the different parts. I grew up on certain areas too, but
Right.
Also getting that exposure through doing these murals, I got to see other areas, and I'm like, wow, I just didn't like what I was seeing in terms of how things look in our community.
Oh, okay.
And not everything is something that can be fixed solely through design. Some of that is, more just, with other things at play.
Right.
But I saw that and I was like, wow, like this is, how do I contribute to my community? I'm using my art. The thing about murals is that murals are more of a voice.
Right.
They advocate. They don't actually necessarily, they're not going to necessarily fix the problem.
Okay.
Whereas with architecture, I can actually go in and maybe build a school that's going to be implemented into, like you're actually providing something to help hopefully actually build community. My art helps to create awareness of maybe issues in the community.
Gotcha.
But the building helps to actually make the change.
Yes.
And so it started off with that when I was in undergrad, and then I worked at MCW for a little bit with children who had sickle cell disease, different things like that. And so I got to go into, Freighter versus children, and I got to see, even in the hospital setting, like, oh my gosh, the difference between what they're providing these young kids versus what they're providing the adults.
Right.
And I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like, these buildings need to be updated. Like, it's just little things that just started sticking out to me. And I'm just like, how are you, and I mean, like, it's still based on where the money's coming from financially, but just seeing the different areas that people were being placed in, in different situations. And I'm like, nobody should have to endure this.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know you were saying when I talked to you prior to today, you were saying how you wanted to get back to Mesmer. You wanted to go back to Mesmer and do some things. So what are some of the things that you were thinking about going back to Mesmer and doing?
So a goal of mine, I would say I've had these goals. I don't know, like high school. Like I was like a little person that's just like, I want to get back. Like that's always been my thing. And and my goal has been figuring out how do I do that with my talent and skills, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've always wanted to do was like have my own like scholarship or like nonprofit or something of that sort. And I think when I was young, I didn't fully understand how that worked or what that meant for me. So when I was in high school, I was a part of National Honor Society. I did a lot of volunteering, different things like that. And as I've gotten older and grown, it's like, how do I continue doing that in different capacities? And so I might not always have the time anymore. So it's saying, hey, what are other things I can do now to still contribute? And so I think having a scholarship of some sort for young people who are, I wouldn't necessarily say going into architecture, but maybe a creative field, and helping to support that and encourage that is something I would like to do.
Okay. So what would you say to some of let's just go back to some of the high schoolers, advice that you would give to them if this is something that they wanted to do, what they wanted to get into? What advice would you give them, like the perseverance and that you had to do to make sure that everything stayed on track, and you persevered through everything? Like, what are the ebbs and flows that you kind of went through and things that they would have to come just to let them know, they may be interested in architecture. So just some of the things that you went through and what they can do or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you know for sure you want to do architecture, I would say a great thing would be to get as much exposure as possible. And so whether that be mentoring is always great. I always tell people, regardless of what you want to do, find someone who you look up to. They don't even have to necessarily be in your field, but find a mentor, someone who can guide you a little bit. I think the other thing is job shadowing is great.
Okay.
And we say that a lot. It's really hard, I would say, depending on where you're at, to get job shadow. It's not always an opportunity that's available.
Yeah.
But I think the more you kind of speak out and talk to people and network, and when you're young, you might be a little bit scared, but just networking with people, not necessarily people your age.
Okay.
I think that's the key. You want to network with people who are either already where you're trying to go or people who are kind of moving that direction. And so having those connections from your teachers.
Yes, I was going to say, how do they go about actually doing that? That's what I was going to ask you. So you answered my question. Yeah.
So like your teachers, what are the, like, what do you call the people who are like over the students? Advisors. It's been so long.
Yeah.
Your advisors are really great. Because I don't think that young people realize the more you communicate with adults what it is that you're interested in, the more likely they are to help.
Okay.
And that's something I had to learn. The more you speak up, the more people are like, oh, I actually might know someone that can help you with this or help you with that, or I might actually be able to help you with that. And so I think it's being able to actually just communicate with people and build relationships. Communication and networking is super important.
Yeah.
It's who you know, not what you know, and you even hear that with if you don't go to school,
Yes.
right? Because not everybody doesn't want to go to school. And so the other route is, hey, who is it that you know? Build those relationships to get you to where you need to be, because you don't necessarily always need the degree depending on what you want to do.
Right. Right. Okay. Um, what other things that can you like just let people know as far as maybe the things that you did when you first started?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just want to kind of go back to where you first started, because I'm trying to get in touch with and talk to the younger people that look up, that want to do it and looking up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Some of the routes and
some of the routes that you took, because they have no idea what to do. You know,
Yeah.
when you were in high school, you didn't know.
Yeah, you know.
You don't know, and so they're lost. So they're trying to find their way. And I do have a few people that are trying to get into the arts.
Yeah.
They don't know exactly what arts they want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was like, this was good for me to have you on today, because it's not talked about, especially for female minorities, you know. And so it's like you said, it's not a lot of them. And so it's something that they can look into, and they may be interested in. They don't know if they'll be interested in it unless they try and see what, the resources of what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So where can they look? Like what places can they look for? Like I know the internet is always there, but what advice would you give besides the advisors at school?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is to first, you really want to figure out what it is that you're even interested in. I think kind of like maxing out all your potential interests, exploring all of them. Sometimes that's scary, because it's like I had interest in things that were on two different sides of the spectrum.
Okay.
Science and art do not go hand in hand. You think they don't go hand in hand, but they do. Architecture is kind of a mix of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think whatever it is you're interested in, even if it sounds crazy, I think you should, if they sound like they don't go together, you should go and you should explore those and figure out what it is that maybe you lean more towards. What are some of the things you can do with some of the things that you're interested in, right? What are some potential, career or whatever it is you want to do with those opportunities? And I think just go after them, and maybe not necessarily always be looking at, I hate to say, the end goal, because you're gonna have to pivot.
Yeah.
And if you're
all the time, it happens all the time. Yeah.
You are, and if you're stuck on this is my actual goal, and you're not really sure about that goal, then it will hinder you and it'll keep you stuck. Versus, if you know that this is your goal, I know people like that. Like I have a friend who's going to be a doctor. She's almost done. She knew she wanted to do that.
Right.
That has never changed for her.
Okay.
That's a little different.
Yeah. Right.
And usually they kind of know that at a very low age too.
Yeah. Like they just know.
Yeah, they just know.
Yeah.
And they like 7 or 8 or 10, whatever, and they're like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And they just do it.
And that's just it.
Yeah. And I think also the other thing is really knowing yourself, figuring out who you are.
Yeah. Because
that makes it easier for you to know what you should be doing. And don't always listen to what everybody else has to say.
Absolutely.
That's what also kind of kept me in the route that I was in, even though I was always smart, always, whatever. But then I had other things that maybe I heard that wasn't necessarily told directly to me.
Right.
But just hearing those things, it kind of plants the seed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it can detour you a little bit. And so I had to realize, like, okay, you have this talent. If you're good at it, something good is going to come out of that.
Absolutely.
You know, and one thing that my mentors, I've had a male mentor, I've had a lot of female mentors. It's actually nice to have a mentor that's the opposite sex too.
Okay.
Because there's certain things, obviously we're different sexes, that men have that they're able to like talk to you about. They have a different mindset, the way they approach things.
Okay.
Different than how women do. And so I was young, I was like my first year of college. I don't know if they just didn't have enough women mentors or what, but it was a great experience because it was like hearing that other perspective.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yep.
And so that was really nice. You know, so don't be detoured at that either. But I would say like, you really have to just figure out who you are, and don't allow any outside sources to dictate that, because
go ahead.
it can have you pursuing things or going after things that is not even for you.
Absolutely. That's why I always, when I talk to people or my clients, you know, we always talk about how whatever it is that's in your heart and something that you do have a passion for, you should go for it. Because, like you said, outside, even our parents, they will have us and say, well, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Just like my mother, she wanted me to go to college, and because my mom is in education, and I didn't want to go to college. And so I got accepted into some colleges. I went to college fairs and, you know, tours and everything. And I was like, you're going to waste your money because I want to be a hairdresser. Because my mom
knew.
You know, because I just knew.
Yeah.
I just knew from a younger age that that's just what I wanted to do. But she tried to influence me to go to college and do this. And I'm just like, that's not what I want to, you know, that's not what I want to do. So you do, sometimes it's your parents, and it's sometimes it's your friends, it's outside people, family, you know, that'll influence you to do certain things. But I always say go with your heart, because if you do that, then you'll find something that you'll be doing, and you'll be going to work, like you said, you could do it for free. It's something that you could do for free, and you will be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you'll flourish at it, and you'll make good money from it.
Yeah. And it don't come right away. And the other thing is, I noticed a lot of people want quick money.
Yeah. That's the age that we live in now. Everything is quick, now.
Yep.
Putting any work in to do anything.
Exactly. And that'll get you, because long term it's not sustainable. You're going to always be chasing. Like, you don't want to be chasing anything.
Exactly. You want to attract.
You do.
Absolutely.
So if you're going after quick money, you're going to always be chasing that quick money. Trying to figure out, how do I get it? Whereas if you do something, you know, that you're passionate about, and figure out how to use that and translate that into something more profitable.
Absolutely.
It'll come to you. But it's funny because the male mentor I had, I think that's why I brought that up. He said, because, you know, you talk about, you know, chasing money and all these different things. And one thing he said to me was, he said, the money will always come.
Yep.
You know, if you go and you do something that you're really good at, and that you like and that you enjoy, the money's gonna come. Right. People are gonna see it. They might not see it right away.
Absolutely.
But people gonna see it. You know,
the right people will see it. That want what you have.
Exactly.
And that's just how that goes. You know. Yeah. Absolutely. So, is there anything that you would like to say, or anything that you have that you want to put out there? Or I know you said one day you want to have your own firm, right?
Yes. I mean, I would be interested in that. I think I always say long term. I used to be a person who'd be like, how do you put it? Very what's the word? Orderly. Like, it's going to be this, and that. I don't do that anymore, because that used to hold me back a lot. And so now it's like, I think at some point, I know I'm going to have something of my own, right?
Absolutely.
Be it a firm, be it a nonprofit, whatever. I think for sure it's going to be a nonprofit.
Okay.
I just know, because that's something I've always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I guess words of wisdom, though, that's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Yes.
I think words of wisdom I have is, hate to be cliche. I do.
be cliche, because it's usually it's true. What
you know. I would say follow your heart. And like, when I say follow your heart, that does not mean things don't change.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. But it does mean that whatever feels right to you, whatever feels good to you, go after that, right? And be okay with, at some point, you go and you be like, dang, I really thought I wanted this here and I didn't want it.
Right.
Be okay with the fact that it's okay not to change your mind,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Don't
The path changes.
It does. I think maybe it was meant for you to go and experience that so that you can realize maybe you didn't want that.
Right.
So that you can redirect yourself on what it is that God really has for you.
Absolutely. 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 And I always say too, your skills will make room for you. Um, Everything that we do, I feel is orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, it's when once we get there, it's like maybe I want to do this or maybe I don't want to do this. But
Yeah.
you'll figure it out once you get there.
Yeah.
So don't stress out about everything because we live in a world now that everybody is stressing about everything that we do. And so now it's just time to kind of, still stay focused. But when something doesn't go right, it's not supposed to go right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you know what? I always notice that everything that we do happens for a reason. So even if it seems
Absolutely.
like it's not like panning out how you thought, there's
Yeah.
always something that you can take from that.
And learn from.
Exactly. And be able to use that.
Mm-hmm. So you can grow. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we touched on everything. Is there anything else? So with your you want to get a nonprofit. So if there's anybody out there that have any information as far as like a nonprofit, any places that she can go. Now I know Wibbick is a good.
Yes.
Wibbick is good. I've worked with them. Black Chambers of Commerce. I work with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those are places that you can actually, go to, and everything is free. They help you out so much. They help me out tremendously.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that you want to say, to everyone about your firm, where you are, or
Yeah. I think I work at a great place. I'm super grateful for all the opportunities I've had. I will say that.
and it's downtown, right?
It is. So if you're interested in architecture and learning more about it, most of our firms are actually located downtown.
Okay.
And so, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people don't know a lot about architecture. But, if you're ever curious about learning about it, obviously the easiest thing is to, go and research, Google, search everything. But then I think if you're able to, they have a lot of boot camps and things now that they're starting to, some of it for engineering, but then it's also starting to lean more into architecture as well. And so if, it's someone who's young, they're in high school, even before high school, now we're trying to pre-expose people earlier on so they have that knowledge. I would say look into those programs for your children, or even for yourself if you're young and you're listening to this. Go do those things, reach out to companies. I know it sounds scary, but like if you're young and you're like high school and I just want, some exposure.
Yes.
People are so willing to listen and help.
Yes.
I don't think you realize that, like my firm, we had a high school student who actually interned, which is different. It was a high school student who interned, and so he graduated this past May.
Okay.
He's at a university now, and he's pursuing architecture.
Oh, nice.
So he got that exposure in high school, enough where he's like, yeah, this is what I really want to do. And so now he's pursuing architecture.
Do you know what high school he went to get to
I don't remember the name of the high school.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. I was just wondering, just in case, someone.
Yeah, when it's to go. Shoot, I got to figure that out. And I can give you that information.
Yeah.
I don't remember what school he was at. But yeah, just look at those things. I think it's important to just research it. Also, just expose your kids to as much as you can. There's so many free programs now too.
Name a couple. Just.
I don't know. I got but like, no, there is like, I would just say like, for example, I know UWM has, I don't know the name of it. I need to know this stuff, but they have like this boot camp thing they do with high schools. I don't know if they're partnering with specific high schools, or if it's just something that you really could just go to the UWM architecture website, and I'm pretty sure you could find the information and reach out to someone. But like, they partner up with, young kids, and they get them exposed to architecture.
Oh, nice.
And so it's a few places that do stuff like that throughout the city.
Yeah.
I know there's a, look it up, but There's
You're fine.
there is an actual program here in Milwaukee that goes to different high schools and things. Um, it's the ACE program.
Okay.
The ACE program.
ACE.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, and I'm pretty sure I said that right. Yep, ACE Mentor Program of America. And so we have one here in Milwaukee, and they go to different high schools and things, and they work on projects with students, and it is still related to engineering, architecture, all those.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I am so glad that you were on today. This was actually my second. This is my second episode, but you're my first actual guest.
Oh, nice.
Yes. I mean, my
Yeah.
first. Yeah. So the first episode that I had was basically the introduction to myself, but
Okay.
this you're my first actual guest. So I thank you, Miss Shavante, for coming on with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. And we will be seeing you again on Never Met a Stranger, Whispers of Wisdom, and we're signing off. So I thank you so much for joining in, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.